The transatlantic slave trade. For those not familiar with it, very bad, just not good. It was a crime against humanity. It was a systematic trade of chattel slavery that encouraged brutality against a fellow man in order to turn a profit. Now, to understand the transatlantic slave trade, you have to first go to its origin, and it really starts with this guy, Christopher Columbus. Now, Columbus believed the earth was shaped like, and I'm not making this up, a pear with a nipple on top. So, he gained funding from Portugal and embarked on a journey trying to circumnavigate the world and find a passage to the Indies. Instead, he found the Americas. And you might be thinking, I'm going to blame Columbus for finding the Americas, which led to a demand for slaves. But no, I will not be. Partially because Columbus didn't really find the mainland Americas. That credit would go to Americo Vespucci. Amerigo, America, Amerigo, America. That's the guy who our country is actually named after. But what Columbus did do is enslave the native Arawak people. The key word here is enslave. While it was not as systemic as what we will see in the late stages of the slave trade, and it is of Native Americans and not Africans, this enslavement of Native Americans sets a dangerous precedent for the history of slavery in the Americas. Now let's go somewhere that is seemingly unrelated, Africa. Now, Africa is very diverse. Just name a few. You have the Benin, Mali, Congo, Ethiopia. Mali being a gold-rich empire, the capital of Timbuktu, the famous ruler of Mansa Musa. Benin having all these intricate ivory and bronze statues, and the artwork through it. Both the Congo and Ethiopia are also military powers of West Africa. But what this division and diversity across Africa does is create conflict. Conflict leading to war, and war allows for the capture of prisoners. Now, with these prisoners of war, you as well have ordinary people kidnapped in raids. These people are then sold to Portugal, the same nation that has recognized the Americas to the Old World. Now, at this point, almost every major nation of Europe has established colonies. With these colonies comes a need for a workforce. Now, the early workforce of Native Americans has either died out from disease or proven too difficult to work with. So, white indentured servants are brought in. But these indentured servants have to be freed, and they're white, which means that they can't be treated as harshly and have to be seen on a somewhat equal level. So, black African slaves are brought into the Americas, and a system of racial hierarchy is established. However, the trade routes are disgusting. Slaves are brought on death marches across the continent to port cities on the West African coast. From there, they are sent to the Americas on overcrowded slave ships, chained down with minimal food and plagued by disease, often covered in their own filth and others' filth. Now, the first English site that received African slaves in the New World was Point Comfort, and that is what I will be analyzing. Point Comfort was a peninsula that was on the Atlantic coast in the Chesapeake Bay. It was covered by water on three sides, and a flat land in the middle, which is indicative of other points in the Chesapeake Bay. This allowed for major military positioning, landing points, and for trading posts. It was part of the Chesapeake Bay Company, later the Virginia Bay Company, and the Virginia Colony. Now, Point Comfort is symbolic of the sin committed by the English in the New World. The New World was an opportunity to escape the atrocities of the Old, but instead, right here at Point Comfort, the sins of the Old World caught up with the New. While Point Comfort was not a major trading point for slaves, it was still a trading point. The Portuguese traded with them, and slaves were brought into the early Virginia colony through this point. Slaves were sought after as colonists rushed to make a profit and exploit this new world. Point Comfort continued as a slave stop, but as the colony developed, it was turned into Fort Monroe. This fort would later